All right, well, good evening. Welcome to our Fauna Meet the Candidates Town Hall. I'd like to introduce our candidates this evening. I've got from the great state of Massachusetts, Danielle Piascik, and Wisconsin, JoAnn Clough, and I've also got from California, Beth Sharp this evening. We are currently missing two candidates, Mathew Jenkins from California and Marquis Laude, and they will both be joining us a little bit late due to some weather or outstanding items that have tied them up at the last moment. I want to congratulate everybody for being nominated for the board of directors. This is a great honor for you guys, and you know, you guys were selected by your peers within the membership, and so you guys deserve a great pat on the back to have been nominated for here. So good luck. Just go over a couple of things this evening. Each candidate will have the chance to answer each question that is asked. I have pre-drawn the names randomly, and we have repeated this process for each question. More than likely, we're only going to get to 3 or 4 questions, but each of you will be given 2 minutes to answer your questions. At the 1:30 mark, you will be notified that you have 30 seconds to finish up. We will give you till approximately 2:15 to complete your answer. If you continue after the 2:15 mark, the committee, which is consisting of Allison Thomas, Aaron Miley, and Charlotte Dumford, who are all 3 on this call, they may mute you. When you are not responding to your question, we ask that you please mute your microphone to eliminate any possible background noise and be courteous of the other candidates. I would like to remind you that this is not a debate. This is an opportunity for you, for the membership, to get to know you. We want this to be a positive experience for each of you. The election committee will be monitoring the behavior and actions of each candidate. They will not hesitate to warn a candidate if they perceive their actions to be in violations of the Fauna Code of Conduct or the board duties that each of you have signed. A candidate will be given 3 strikes or warnings, and after the 3rd strike, they will be dismissed from the town hall. As a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we are also live on our social media pages for the membership to view and comment. We will be posting this webinar on our site in our YouTube video station. And this will also be tied to the ballot that is emailed out to each of the members so that they can also go back and view the recording. Just a reminder that the ballots will be mailed out on January 1 to all of our email members, and then the 250 to 300 members that have no email address on file, we have a handwritten or a hand ballot that will be sent out to them, and those ballots will be returned back to Equestrian Land and Conservation Resources, where they will be counted by a third party. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. I want to thank the membership who's taken the time out of their schedule to attend this very important town hall session. We're going to start with opening remarks from each candidate. Each candidate will be given 5 minutes to introduce themselves and why they are running for the board. And we are going to start with Danielle. Danielle, you have the floor.
Everybody, my name is Danielle. I own Brookside Friesians along with my family. I decided to run for the board because I feel very strongly there's a lot to offer the membership, and there are still many, many things that we can do to increase everyone's ability to enjoy their horses as well as engage with the organization. I'm extremely passionate about the Friesian breed, as well as helping other people learn about the breed that don't necessarily know anything about it yet. Thank you for my nomination. I hate going first.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Our next candidate, and I believe Marcus has joined us now, so we're going to go to Mark Laude. Mark, you have the floor.
Because I joined late, I would respectfully request if you could just go on to the next person while I get my documents ready. I'm sorry, I had traffic trouble.
Okay, no problem. We will move on to the next candidate, and that is Beth Sharp.
Is this going to be the order that we go in through this whole thing?
No, it's each question is randomly asked.
Okay, well, the next time you get to something else, could you tell us the order we're going to be in before we get started? So you don't scare us.
That's not the order that we follow, Beth. It's randomly chosen.
Okay. Well, you could say the order that we're going to be in for each category. That's what I'm saying. Hi, my name is Beth Sharp. I am running for the board because I've been not terribly happy with the transparency in the last couple of years and have had a lot of people call me and ask me questions and make suggestions and complain about things. So I thought, well, I have nothing better to do right now, so I might as well do this. I've got 3 horses still. I had a high of 18 at one point when my husband was still alive, and have sold off most of my young stock in the last few years to get down to having 2 old mares and 1 medium mare who lives at my daughter's house. And I bought my first Friesians in 2003. I bought a mother and a daughter. And the daughter was an Anton daughter, which is what I was looking for, and just went on from there and imported a few horses and bought a couple from people in this country and had a breeding program trying to improve what was going on. Took my horses to inspections for full inspections for a couple of years, and then star inspections as they got older, and met a lot of judges and did a lot of transporting of judges on the West Coast inspection circuit. There were 3 in California, so we were driving from Northern California to the middle of the state and then down to the southern border. And I've traveled with judges and runners every year for about 7 years. I was on the board from the first year I was on the board, I was the treasurer, and after that I was the president until 2015. I was not the president in 2016, but in 2017 I was again until I retired at the end of that year. So I have a lot of experience with Fauna, with the Kfbs, what happens in committees, what happens on the board meetings, what happens with other people on the board. I'm looking forward to getting my feet wet in this again and seeing what's happening now and what's different, what's changed, and what can be improved and what is working well. So that's the reason I got involved. It's the reason I decided to run. I have a lot of experience with the Fauna board, also in business and accounting. I think the Kfbs relationship has been mostly good. I'm not sure what it is now. When I got involved, we had a very poor relationship and we owed them a lot of money. And part of it was because they were figuring out our billing wrong. So we got that all straightened out and got them caught up and paid off, and have had a pretty decent relationship ever since then. So we'll see. So that's why I'm running, and I'm interested to see what happens.
Perfect. Thank you, Beth. Our next candidate is Joanne Clew.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight for this town hall. First of all, I just would like to take a moment to recognize all the folks affected by the Quad State tornadoes. It's such a difficult time across our country, and another storm rolling in through the plains and Midwest. So please all be careful. For background, I have owned Frisians for 20 years and operated Black Earth Frisians for 11 years. And we are committed to breeding high quality Kfbs registered Frisian horses that are kind, willing to work, that are healthy, thriving, and athletic. In our 20-year history, we have bred 14 Frisian foals, all from Kfbs approved stallions standing in North America. We really enjoy our interactions with the Frisian community, the friendships we have made, and the ongoing learning opportunities it affords. And with respect to serving fauna, I have and would continue to leverage my past experiences in support of our association and our membership. With respect to operation, I started serving on fauna committees beginning in 2016. I volunteered to work as a member of the chapter committee, the marketing committee, and served as a member and chair of the inspection committee. I have also worked as a member on subcommittees on the Charitable and Chapter of the Year Awards and as chair for a subcommittee on a formal grievance. Through my work on the inspection committee, I've collaborated with our members on revisions on site host and inspection manuals, developed a listing of recommendations for site hosts to protect their participants from the spread of COVID. I've also served 3 years as a member and now administrator of the FMC. Our goals are to support our membership interests, fauna operations, and to enhance bi-directional communications. What a great experience for me. And boy, did I learn a lot. I am on my 8th year as a Great Lakes officer. I served 4 years as secretary, and I'm in my 4th year as president. This has helped me to understand the opportunities and the challenges of our chapters and to develop realistic ideas to support and improve our organization and represent its members. With respect to publications, I've submitted articles to the Fauna magazine, including Preparing Your Foal for an Inspection, Human Interest Stories on Anton 343, Black Pearl Frisians in Torben 466, and Make a Wish, a Dream Come True for a young woman receiving her first Frisian horse. In addition, I submitted Great Lake chapter highlights and contributed to an article on preparing and caring for your Frisians during the winter. For outreach, I'm one of 7 mentors who perform monthly outreach calls to new members to extend a warm welcome and offer any needed supports. Finally, I've participated in a number of activities that provide a foundation for guiding members on available opportunities, including networking, fauna AGMs, ABFP testing, inspections, and Kfbs stallion shows. I've been really fortunate for this experience, but at the same time, I know there's so much more to learn to preserve and protect our breed. And to that end, we need to consider and leverage the collective experience and knowledge of our members. Their input will strengthen our organization and move us forward. I decided to run for the board to refocus our time and effort and resources on the Frisian horse and their stewards, our fauna members, our most important mission. Too much effort and time has been expended on member and or board conflicts and grievances. We need to reclaim this time and redirect our efforts and resources back to our mission, the Frisian horse. I also decided to run, given I do have experience on a number of fauna and Great Lake committees and activities that I can continue to leverage. I am fortunate to have learned and grown as a result of the guidance I've received from so many committed and experienced fauna members, mentors, and friends. Given these factors and my commitment to move the organization forward, this is the right time to run. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jo. We'll move on. Marcus, hopefully you're prepared and ready to go.
I am, sir. Thank you. And I apologize for the tardiness, stuck in traffic in San Antonio. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending the town hall. I appreciate the opportunity to give a presentation and discuss the things that I've been involved in over the past couple of years with Fauna. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Marquis Laude. Everybody calls me Mark. I'm a retired U.S. Army Special Agent, and I currently own 4 companies. My most successful company is called Integrated Security Solutions, which I have 81 employees, and they're managed by various operation managers and things of that nature, so that I can spend more time, less time actually overseeing the companies, and more time doing other things. And that would include working with the Frisian Horse Association North America. I also own a ranch up in western Montana, northwest Montana, 1,000-acre ranch. I have 15 Frisians. I've been involved in Frisians for 19 years. I have 15 of them, which I breed, and I also do law enforcement on a couple of the horses. I volunteer for the community. I've been to multiple stallion shows over the past 10 years. I'd have to say probably been 8 out of the 10 of them in the last 10 years since I've been really involved in fauna activities, participating in president of the local chapter, the Rocky Mountain Frisian Horse chapter, for a while until I came on the board, and I resigned from the Rocky Mountain Frisian Horse chapter. And I was on the inspection committee for several years, participating in the scheduling of the inspections, and as everybody knows about the inspections and how that goes. I've also been on the board of directors for 4 years. I am currently the vice president. I was vice president last year as well, and I hope to continue my involvement in the organization, to participate in the structure and the planning of the organization, and moving in a positive direction through the next 4 years. I've visited multiple Frisian farms since I've been involved in fauna, probably around 50 or so Frisian farms. Some of you have been involved in that. I've been to some of your Frisian farms. I've also have about 20, I have experience with about 20 different boards throughout my lifetime. I've been involved in things like the American Society of Industrial Security, International Narcotics Officer Association, the Flathead County Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff's Office Foundation. I'm certified in Homeland Security Board, the Rocky Mountain Frisian Horse chapter, as I told you. Let's see. I guess I'm going to conclude there. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate that. And I do see that Mathew Jenkins has joined us now. And Mathew, we are doing our opening remarks, and you are the last one drawn anyway, so your timing is perfect. So Mathew, we'll turn it over to you, and you've got 5 minutes to do your opening remarks.
Oh, perfect timing. Thank you so much. I apologize, everyone, to the other candidates and to the members for being late. I'm up in Palo Alto at the VA clinic. I had it's about a 3-hour drive. I've been ongoing issues with my knee, and our government is wonderful about 3 hours late. So I apologize for being late. It's interesting, though, that I'm at the VA the day of this call. It was a last-minute appointment that I was able to attend, because one of the things that I know about the power and the magic of the Frisian horse is how therapeutic it is. And being away from the ranch for today, I miss the horses. I fed them this morning and left, and I miss them. And I have several friends. I'm part of the VFW in our town, and work with veterans, and we bring them to meet these Frisians. And it's amazing to see people that are struggling, and the magic and the power. One of my childhood friends is paralyzed, and we recently were able to get him up on a Frisian. It's the first time since he was paralyzed. He's also a fellow veteran. First time he was able to be on a horse since he hurt himself in a motorcycle accident, and it was on a Frisian, and she was so great, and she knew that he needed some extra support, and he did fantastic. So one of the things that I'm inspired by, and what keeps me focused on helping out Fauna on committees and new members, and teaching people about Frisians, is I see every day firsthand the power that these beauties put in our lives. Like, I know my life would be so much less fulfilled if I didn't have a Frisian in it. And I want to see how that can affect our youth and affect people in a positive way, especially with our veterans. I see just a phenomenal thing, and we'll talk more about that. It's something I think that we're missing at Fauna that we can improve on, is giving back. And there's so many amazing farms that are so blessed and have so many blessings they can offer to other people. That's why we saw a couple years ago at the AGM, I brought my good friend Kenny Bass of the Battle Buddy Foundation. He does service dogs, and everyone kind of knows that dogs and horses go hand in hand. Most horse owners have dogs, and most dog owners, I guess maybe not all dog owners have horses. But my point to that is, I see Fauna not only being an organization that helps Frisian owners and the Frisian horse itself, but an organization that can give back to our countries, both US and Canada, which have huge veteran communities that are there. So my name is Mathew Jenkins. Thank you for taking the time to get to know us. I have been helping Fauna for the last 2 or 3 years now, I think it is. Been involved in marketing committee, membership committee, the Mayor Show committee, helping out with the local hearings here. I'm currently the chapter president for the Central California Frisian Horse Club. These last couple of years have been interesting for everyone, and we like to use COVID as an excuse for everything. And last year when COVID struck and there was a decision to cancel the hearings, I was on the board at the time, and I knew that we had to do something. We had to do something for our members, because the inspections being canceled, it hit everyone hard. And so we created, through the marketing committee, we created the very first virtual horse show. My co-host Jason was pivotal in getting all this done. So we created this great event for our members to still attend, even though in a year where it was such disappointment, we were able to accomplish so much. On the membership committee, we were able to accomplish a new mentorship program. So many of you may not know this, but if a new member comes to Fauna, they're contacted by one of the mentors, and they're given the opportunity to learn about Fauna. They're given as much or as little help as they want. It's a great, thriving program. We're continuing to pursue this. We're starting to also, through the work of Marvel, really reach out to our Hispanic and Amish communities. I believe these are two of the biggest underserved communities within Fauna, and we're making strides to do that. That's something that was a passion project of mine when we started, when I was on the board. Another thing is the youth. We were able to
30 seconds, Matthew.
We were able to develop the Future Fauna program. Unfortunately, my time got cut short on the board. We don't need to get into all that, but I'm running for the board because I'm here for Fauna. I'm here for the members, and regardless of what has transpired, Fauna needs help because we haven't had inspections in 2 years, and this board needs a strong leader on it. So I'm that leader for you, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, so we're gonna move into our first question here, and the names were drawn randomly here, so I'll go over that order so that you can be prepared. Our first one is going to be Joe, followed by Mark, Beth, Matthew, and Danielle. The first question this evening is, what can Fauna do to encourage purebred Frisian owners to register their horses with the Kfbs versus another registry? Considering the number of Frisian registries available, what are some of your ideas to bring the Frisian community back together as one inclusive unit? If you need me to repeat the question at any time, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to turn over to Joe, and Joe, you have 2 minutes to answer the question.
Joe, I believe you're muted.
Thank you, Aaron.
There you go.
So this is on the registry, and that's a really great question. First and foremost, to encourage them to register, we need to communicate the tremendous value of the Kfbs. an organization that provides databases for members on genetics and breedings. It directs its efforts at education, into research, and the health of the Frisian horse. This is truly unique. Other registries do not offer this complete scope of services, and these are important tools and important resources. Overall, to encourage members to join Fauna, to register their horses and bring our membership back together, we need to clearly demonstrate we are an association that places the Frisian first, and that we are high functioning, worthy, supportive organization and service to the breed, not to individual agendas. Let's refocus our time, our effort, and resources on the breed, our most important mission. Too much of time has been used in the recent past on conflicts and grievances. These distractions also make Fauna less desirable. In 2021, I chaired a Fauna grievance subcommittee. From that experience, I learned that we have an opportunity right now to address this sensitive topic. To minimize conflicts and keep our focus on the horse, we need to ensure behavior expectations are clear, members are accountable, and that we are making every effort to communicate openly and transparently. It's time to implement the new grievance policy to break the cycle of divisiveness and conflict and recenter our work on the Frisian horse. We
have 30
Fauna,
seconds.
can do better. Given our members have been unfortunately affected by the pandemic, other things we can do is to seek their input on suggestions on how we can bring value to them through the cost of their membership. Last but not least, let's just make sure that we use our strategic plan, our successes, and celebrate them so folks see what we're doing on their behalf. That's a good marketing tool. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We'll move on to Mark. You have the floor.
Thank you, Jason. We'll go back to the question here just a second. Okay, so since my time on the board, I've been involved in multiple activities relative to the membership and the ability to bring the membership together. I firmly believe that the relative to the question about the breeders registering the horses and bringing the breeders together is communication. And I feel that one of the weak points of the organization is making our members feeling welcome, and the transparency of the information that the organization, that the leadership has been involved in is not getting out to our members. I have always been a firm believer in communication, verbal communication, as opposed to correspondence or simple advertising. Understanding that we have a lot of members within the organization, and knowing that it's impossible to reach out to every single member on a regular basis, the ability to reach out to many of the members is not beyond our reach. And sometimes reaching out to our members and finding out the things that they believe in and getting somewhat of a consensus of their concerns and their troubles about what's going on in the organization and the good points and everything all together, understanding that and listening to our members, I believe is extremely important. And I believe that that will help our organization grow stronger, and more people will have a better understanding about
30 seconds.
The direction that the organization needs to go in and how we continue to proceed down the path of a happy organization. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Beth, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Jason. The KFPS is a value. Joe touched on many of the things that I think about this question when you sent it out and we looked at them, and things that I wrote down, are Joe covered all of it. They are of value, and we need to continue to promote the fact that the KFPS is the only organization in the world that does as much study and analyzation of what's happening within the breed and with the horses. And at the end of the day, our mandate is to promote and protect the Frisian horse, not little cliques of owners and breeders and people who are doing things to feather their own nest. It's to promote and protect the Frisian horse, not do things that will harm it or cause it to be looked at poorly by other breeds or other horse people. It's a great horse. We need to let people know what a great horse it is. We also need to hold inspections. The German Friesians and the warm bloods both had inspections this year. What happened to ours? I think it got dropped. Somebody wasn't paying attention when it was time to get these things in order and do whatever it took to get judges over here to have inspections, and we missed it. So it's very disappointing. And I've talked to a lot of old-time Friesian owners who are not interested in continuing their membership anymore with the type of support we've had from our organization in the last 2 years. So we've got to do better, or we won't have an organization. It will go away. I mean, there's just not going to be enough people to do it. So we have to make sure that our membership knows that that is our goal, is to promote and protect the Frisian horse
30 seconds.
and have inspections. That's all. I'm good.
Thank you. And
Mhm.
after Beth, we'll move on to Mathew.
So this is a great question, but the question I believe is, what can we do to encourage non-members, so purebred Friesian owners, to register their horses with the KFBS versus another registry? This is a very multi-pronged answer because it's a difficult question. One of the things is it's all about perception, and people have talked about perception and what people see. The perception that needs to be conveyed to outsiders outside of Fauna is that Friesian owners aren't just a bunch of rich old white people. I'm going to bring up a point to illustrate that. When the Kardashians bought Friesians, I saw within the Facebook community and even within some Friesian owners that I know, a lot of almost arrogance and judgment of Kim Kardashian because, you know, who is she to buy all these Friesians? They weren't even that great. And this is a perfect example of why people don't necessarily want to join Fauna, or they're not worried about registering their horses with Fauna. So I think it's important to really be inclusive and really be open to young people, to people that maybe have an alternative lifestyle than the traditional owners that Fauna represents. I think that's very, very, very important and very pivotal, and that's going to be through the youth. But the other opportunity I think that we have to educate and to bring people to even getting purebred Friesians is one of the biggest challenges I think that Jason and the office face on a daily basis is registering B-Book horses. So these are KFPS registered horses, and they're purebred because they are pure Friesians, but they're B-Book. This is an incredible opportunity to find who's breeding B-Book horses and who's using the KFPS to register these horses. I think it's a missed opportunity for us to potentially make more revenue and introduce breeders and our mentors to these people so we can educate them as to why they should. Heritage horses is something that is a challenge, but a lot of heritage horses, people that are wanting to breed their stallion that's not approved, or they're a half-breed Friesian, right? Which that's nothing that Fauna's ever going to get into. So I think it's about inclusiveness and engaging those that we may not typically have engaged in the past.
Thank you. And Danielle.
Hi, everybody. So I think that Fauna needs to find a sense of communication that is open to everybody. We need to create a community where members can feel free to express their opinions and views and feel they're being heard by their leadership. We all come from different walks of life and we all have something to contribute. So we need to be able to hear each other and be able to have open, respectful, constructive communication with each other to be able to better Fauna. And part of that includes opening up inspections to B-Book 2 horses, communicating that we do have entries open for B-Book 1 horses. Just making things known to members that right now it's kind of hard to go find the information, or our only answer to them is, well, you need to call the office. Whereas members, we need to be able to talk to each other to find that information, and being able to have constructive conversation with each other that maybe we don't agree, but we don't have to agree. But being able to have that conversation with each other is something that Fauna really needs to be able to do. And right now, I think that's a little lacking.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate that. So that takes care of question 1. We're going to move on to question 2. And this order of go is going to be Danielle, Mark, Matthew, Beth, and Joe. And this question is, how would you describe your ability to work with and lead others? How would you handle conflict within the board or within the organization as a whole? We're going to start with Danielle.
So I am currently the president of the Northeast Frisian Horse Association. I have been a member of both of our local chapters for many years. Since 2018, I've held a board position. I am also own many companies. I currently run my family's construction company, and I run, obviously, our breeding station. My way of leadership is to work from the ground up. You cannot have a successful organization if the people at the bottom that you're leading are not happy, or you're not hearing them. And like I said before, we don't always have to agree, but we have to be able to have that conversation and talk about why we agree or why we don't why we don't agree with each other, and find a middle ground. As a leader, you need to be able to understand other people's points of view, even though you don't agree with them. So my way of leadership and handling conflict is just to have conversations with people and taking a step back. And it's not always about what's best for ourselves, it's what's best for the organization or the group as a whole. And sometimes we have to take a step back and say, okay, well, this doesn't really work for me, but it works for everybody else. And that's the way it just needs to be. As a leader, you need to be able to say, what's better for the whole is what's most important.
Thank you, Danielle. Next, Marcus.
Thank you again, Jason. So my ability for leading and working with others comes from the experience I've had in life. Being around world leaders as a special agent, foreign dignitaries, and managing the companies that I have, being presidents of boards, multiple boards, the description of the ability to interface with employees, to interface with world leaders, the ability to discuss and listen to what people have to say is probably one of the strongest points that a leader needs to have relative to leading people, is listening to them and being able to effectively make decisions and effectively being able to understand that people have differences of opinions about certain things or about any matters. And relative to an organization like the Frisian Horse Association, handling conflict within the board is a team. The board needs to be a team. The board needs to work together. And that is extremely important. Well, other people have conflicts or other people have different opinions. Those opinions need to be heard. And then it's a matter of being able to vote on the decision at hand and move on and not, so to speak, have bad feelings or ill feelings about the decisions, and being able to move on without grudges and regret about the decisions. So working with an organization and a board, it's paramount that the board work together and that the organizations work together, and you hear the different opinions of people and listen to them and make a decision, whether it's collectively or as a leader, working together with the teams. Thank you, Jason.
Matthew.
Excellent. So the ability to work and lead others, there's an adage, it's a backpacking adage. It's the speed of the leader, the speed of the team. So if you want your team to go fast, you need to go fast. If you want your team to be efficient, you need to be efficient. This is the first time all of the committees in FHANA have been member-led. It's a brilliant thing that Roseanne has done, our president. And so the key to that with these committees and with working with each other is open collaboration. Never asking someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. I think that's the biggest fundamental of leadership. As far as handling conflict on the board, I learned very early on in the military, the chain of command exists to protect people, to make sure that things are done properly. So when someone doesn't follow the chain of command, things break down. What that means is if there's an issue, it should be handled at the lowest level possible. So for example, if I were to say something that offended somebody, I would expect that they would come to me and they would want to explain. If I felt that I had done something wrong, I would offer an apology, and then we would resolve that matter and move forward. What happens sometimes in organizations, though, is rumors get spread, things go beyond that escalation, and things go outside of the board, and that's where the challenge starts to take place, is that it doesn't stay within the people that the issue even revolved. It gets blown up and taken out of proportion. So I think that handling conflict at the lowest level possible to start is always the greatest way to handle something, and then escalate it to the next steps if it doesn't solve that. But paramount above everything is leading by example and leading as that person that sets the
30
pace.
seconds.
I think it's absolutely paramount to be somebody that is willing to do whatever it takes for this organization.
Thank you, Matthew. Next, we'll turn it over to Beth.
Thanks, Jason. The second year I was on the board and the first year that I was the president, we were expected to put on the 25th anniversary show. And it was kind of something we hadn't done for ever. They had been done privately by people in the past, but the association had never put on a huge event like that. And getting our board and our members actively involved in a wide variety of committees to try and make this come together a year ahead of time was a huge challenge. And I think that I learned that if you go with the strength of your membership and put people in where they can do the most good, you will get further than trying to either do it all yourself or have other people do things or pay people to do it. We ended up, I mean, this was a shoestring deal, and it came together and was we still get people wanting to know when we're going to have another one. So it was a fabulous thing, but it involved me as a new person on the board with other people on the board, spreading out the work and helping everybody accomplish what they needed to do. And I think that's the way that I like to work on the board. When I was on the board, my favorite thing was to not talk much. Let the people in the committees talk, let your other board members give out their ideas, and just kind of be the orchestra leader and hope that everything works out. And if you have a problem, then you can step in and maybe get everybody to back down a little bit if that's what's necessary. But
30
working
seconds.
with the strength of the people that you have is the most critical thing in a leadership role in an organization. That's it.
Thank you. And
Mhm.
next is JoAnn.
Thank you, Jason. In my healthcare career, I managed a physical medicine and rehab service with diverse employees and later was promoted to the chief of staff's office. The chief's office was responsible for all the physicians, healthcare contractors, associated health professionals, healthcare trainees. In this role, I was responsible for the clinical side of the house and represented the chief at meetings. And I also was responsible to respond to congressional inquiries. In total, I worked at the hospital for 38 years, the best years of my life. I love the Veterans Administration and the veterans that we serve. These opportunities provided me with the skills and knowledge to grow my leadership abilities, address competing demands, to address conflicts, and to innovate. It also taught me to lead with compassion and to lead with courage. With respect to conflicts, I would foster, advocate, and model transparency, civility, respect, compliance to the bylaws and code of conduct, and advocate for accountability. It is critical to lead by example, and I would expect the same from my peers. Communication is key, so we need to seek every opportunity for constructive, bi-directional communications. To best address conflict, it is important and helpful if someone comes forward with an issue that they also identify solutions for the resolution, to be an active participant, in that process. Finally, conflicts, when managed openly, fairly, constructively, can lead to positive change and growth. The means on how we address conflict and not to avoid it is critically important to our success and to our members' satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, so that concludes question number 2. We'll move on to question number 3. This order is Beth, Mark, Matthew, Danielle, and Joe. And we'll go ahead and ask the question here. What characteristics do you possess that you would consider as strengths when working in a board environment? Again, what characteristics do you possess that you would consider as strengths when working in a board environment? And we'll start with you, Beth.
I think that experience with all aspects of FHANA and business background and accounting are my biggest strengths. It has introduced me to a wide variety of people over the years, and I've had to deal with everything. I mean, when you're in that kind of a situation, you deal with a lot of people, and everything that's come up with FHANA has been a good, well, I won't say it's all been a good experience, but most of it has. And I've met a lot of great people that are still some of my best friends in this association. So that helps with what you can do and what you want to do. And that's what happens when you work in a board environment. That's the same thing. You have to take what you've got and make the best of it. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. Characteristics that I possess relative to managing and working with a board in a board environment are the ability to hear logic, hear reasoning, and understanding that other people have their own opinions about various things without being able to get upset about the decisions that are made, and understanding that everybody does have a different opinion and everybody does have a different skill set or level of knowledge about the topics that are being discussed and the issues that are raised by the organization. I've always been a firm believer that the president of the organization manages the board and not the organization. So it's imperative that the board of directors work together cohesively relative to following the organizational guidelines under the rules for boards. So one of the characteristics that I feel that I have or bring to that is the knowledge and skills and experience in working with boards and understanding that philosophy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Matthew?
So if everybody remembers the Challenger explosion, they found that one of the things that caused this to happen was a phenomenon called groupthink. It's very common when a group of people get together, they all kind of get a consensus. Yeah, that's the consensus. That's the consensus. I'm not a group thinker. I was brought on this board 2 years ago to advocate for the Frisian horse and the Frisian horse owner, regardless of their status, whether they're a nonprofit, whether they're own a stallion, or they've been a Fauna member for 40 years. My strength on the board is to advocate for this horse. It's to, as Beth said earlier, it's to protect and promote the Frisian horse in North America. So is my style sometimes abrupt and maybe a little too honest? Could I refine some of that? Of course. But I'm always going to convey the truth. I'm always going to advocate for you, the owner, and your horse, regardless of your stature or lack of stature within Fauna, whether you have 100 horses or 1 horse. That doesn't affect my advocation for you. I will always be the person that will look objectively at something. I'll never be a yes man, and I won't fall prey to groupthink, which I think happens at times within this organization. Beth mentioned also earlier, I've had 2 years with no inspections. This is unacceptable. I'll cover it in my closing argument because I think I'm about to hit the wire on time here. But we need to prevent groupthink. We need different thinkers. We need different perspectives. We need different demographics on this board. We need somebody who's going to challenge this board, not just somebody who's going to go along with the status quo and do business as usual. Thanks, Jason.
30 seconds. Thank you. And we're going to go to Danielle.
I have to apologize in advance. There's something going on with my video, so I lost that. But to answer the question, I am a deeply passionate person about what I put my mind to, especially when it comes to the Frisian breed. I am very hardworking and I go above and beyond in all things to help in whatever task is at hand. I have the ability to work with a variety of people and personalities. I am honest and I am able to see both sides of everyone's opinion and see how maybe sometimes our opinions don't match, but how can we work together to get to an end solution? And maybe the end solution isn't what we thought it was going to be. Maybe it's something better. And I'm very easy to talk to.
Thank you, Danielle. And JoAnn?
Thank you, Jason. I think I would divide this up into 2 areas, and that being technical skills and what we call soft skills. And again, through my background in working in complex healthcare systems, I really learned a tremendous amount about operations. And some of these things relate to informatics, analyzing data, working in contracts, developing contracts, analyzing operations for quality purposes, for patient safety, any general safety, and to ensure compliance with regulatory expectations and bylaws and codes. So I've got that kind of as a good foundation to be able to navigate the business aspects of the board. The second area, which I'll call the soft skills, is really the human side, the people skills, if you will. And, you know, I'm 68 years old. I've got a lot of life experience. I've had difficulties in my life. I've had challenges, and I've been blessed over and over again. And, you know, through these experiences, I've learned the importance, and I practice active listening. We have to listen to one another, whether we want to hear the message or we agree with the message. Listen and repeat back, so you know that you're understanding their viewpoints. I welcome diverse opinions. We're stronger for it. I don't like people lining up just to say what they think you want to hear. I want to hear every aspect of an issue or a problem so we can
30
get the best
seconds.
solution. And I value and support a welcoming and inclusive environment, and I would aid the board of directors and address challenges along this journey. I think I have the courage to deal with difficult situations and the commitment to fulfill the expectations of our membership. Thank you.
Thank you. So we had budgeted for 3 questions, and we have time to go into 2 more questions. So I'm gonna move on to question number 4. And the order of this question is going to be Joe, Matt, Danielle, Mark, and Beth. The question is, with membership at a 10-year high, what changes do you feel that FHANA can make to ensure that we retain more members and attract new members? What can FHANA do to get more members to participate in committees and events? If you need me to repeat that, I'd be happy to. Otherwise, I'll turn it
go
back
ahead.
over to Joe.
Yeah, Jason, why
Repeat
don't you repeat it one more time?
Okay. With membership at a 10-year high, what changes do you feel that FHANA can make to ensure that we retain more members and attract new members? What can FHANA do to get more members to participate in committees and events? Joe?
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. First of all, I want to give a personal shout out and thanks to our committee chairs and members. We've all benefited from their efforts to improve opportunities and operations, and we are better because of it. And I think that's the reason we're at a 10-year high. And we are a member-driven organization, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work, and we need to show gratitude to these individuals, and we need to be more public about it. That said, retention, recruitment, and satisfaction is really linked to a noble mission, our values, and to continuous improvement. And to that end, for recruitment and retention, let's commit to ensure that FHANA is inclusive, that it's supportive and civil and respectful to all. And let's commit to our code of conduct and maintain our central focus on the Frisian horse. With respect to participation in committees and events, we could consider, listing our volunteers by name each year on the FHANA website with a big thank you for their hard work and efforts. This could be done at the time of the AGM and post the same list at the event for all to see. And given FHANA is fueled by the efforts of volunteers, let's formally recognize their contributions by expanding the annual volunteer award to regional awards. We need open and frequent expressions of gratitude for service. This would help acknowledge the value of our members and promote member retention and satisfaction. And one other thing I would like to bring up, and we're going to talk about at the FMC tomorrow, is to take a look at the volunteers duty agreement that's been posted on the website. And I would ask that we think about changing the tone of the document to ensure volunteers are viewed as critical to the success of this organization. The current agreement feels a little
30 seconds.
heavy-handed and suggests maybe a lack of trust in volunteers. And the FMC would be an effective vehicle to obtain this feedback and help forward it back to FHANA. So maybe we can work in partnership to strengthen that, to help our volunteers feel appreciated and get their commitment to sustain their efforts. Thank you.
Matthew?
Well, I have to give this is a great question. I have to give a big shout out to Marvel Jeffcoat. We can thank her and the hard work that the membership committee has done, but we are on a 10-year high. But that doesn't go without saying that the big shout out goes to the Frisian horse. This horse is growing in popularity. If anybody is breeding and selling horses, tell me how many horses you have to sell right now. I'm out. We have none that are available to sell right now. So this horse is growing in popularity. So we don't need to do anything to sell the Frisian horse. It sells itself. Just putting somebody in a room with the Frisian is all we need to do. But to ensure that we continue to grow, these steps are being taken place already. The membership committee knew that the future is our youth. So Future FHANA is a pivotal tool that we have to engage not just the youth, but young people, meaning, people younger than all of us running for the board, the under 30 crowd and those that are getting into Friesians. I mentioned the Kardashians earlier. They did more to promote the Friesian horse that I think most people realize. They did a phenomenal thing for us. To retain and attract, we got to habla español. We have to develop a big time. This is one of the major goals if I'm put back on the board for next year. We have to get a really proactive Spanish program for the Friesian horse. They're importing hundreds of horses to Guadalajara. It's a missed opportunity. We have to engage and get the Spanish community involved, the Spanish speaking community, and particularly in my market in California. Mexico is huge right now. California Friesians are one of the hottest commodities that we have. As far as encouraging people to get involved.
30 seconds.
We have to ask people. We have to take away this inclusiveness that it's this circle. There was something said last year that Fauna seems like a good old boys club. It was mentioned by one of the candidates. It's kind of true. So we have to include people. We have to ask them, include them, and let people be part of it and kind of let go the reins and let this next generation step up and really be part of Fauna. Thanks.
Thank you. Danielle?
I'm gonna start with the first part question. What changes do you feel Fauna can make? One of the very first things that I think Fauna can do is communication. Really being, continued transparency, making sure to involve, everybody from our one horse owners all the way up to our very large breeding farms. There's space for everybody and there's something for everybody within Fauna. We do a lot of events like Equine Affair, and one thing that we heard during Equine Affair was, the only place to get information is by asking people, and we don't know anybody. So, we have the Fauna website, but nobody really knows how to use the Fauna website. So, pushing the Fauna website, doing videos on how to use the portal and how to use the website, how to find information. And then what can we do to get more members to participate in committees and events? Something we're doing with the AGM this year is doing meet and greets with the different committee members and their chair representatives. Because we all know what committees are, but we don't know really, what they do within their meetings or who the people are. So that's something we really want to bring to the people to, introduce them to the committees, see how they can get involved, what piques their interest. Things like doing more events. So Fauna is really out there. Some people don't know what Fauna is. They've either heard of the Kfbs or they haven't. They've heard of the German Registry. They've heard of all the different registries we have, but what really is Fauna? How does that relate to them as a person?
30 seconds.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Go. You've got 30 seconds, Danielle, if you want to finish up.
I think really it's just, more communication and continued transparency to, what Fauna is and how we can be of service to the members.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Jason. This question is kind of a bit similar to one of the first questions that was asked earlier, is about retaining membership, and the relativity to that question is how do we retain our members, and how do we keep things going? How do we continue to grow? The organization over the past several years has expanded greatly relative to the exposition of our Friesian horse, or the Friesian horse, and the real backbone to the organization of the horse. In doing so, during these events, whether it's the Equine Affair or whether it's some other event somewhere else, the promotion of the horse and the public display, as Matt had indicated, the horse sells itself. When people, I had the pleasure of going out to New England for the Equine Affair last month, and watching the people walk by and just their mouths dropping when they see the Frisian horse that have never seen him before. Some of them have seen him but never touched him before. And the horse does sell itself. The ability to keep the organization together is communication. And I know I'm taking the quote from Danielle. Thank you, Danielle, for that. But the transparency that's needed, the ability to keep our members warm and fuzzy, so to speak, is and
30 seconds.
Get them involved in the organization and keeping their opinions known and understanding what they want and what they need to continue to support the organization. So transparency is a key. Thank you.
Thank you. And Beth, your turn.
Okay. Everybody else has hit on all of the good high points. Matt, Spanish speakers, that's critical. And I think that if we can't hire a person in the office that speaks Spanish, we need to employ somebody to call people that need to speak Spanish to do their business. And it can't be that hard to find somebody to do that could take calls or, sit down for a couple of hours a week or a day and return phone calls to people that don't speak English, because they make up a huge part of the Frisian market. Like Joe said, the volunteer document sounds like it sounds like you're agreeing not to do something criminal when you sign it. It's way too harsh, way too heavy-handed. And if you have to have people swear an oath to be a volunteer for a volunteer organization, something's wrong. Part of that has to do with transparency. Our recent events that happened on the board happened and nobody said anything. So the innuendo is going around and the rumors are flying, and the board never said anything. They needed to make an announcement. They needed to say something. They needed to let people know what was happening, because people know anyway. It's not like you could keep it a secret. So transparency, communication, both in English and in Spanish, and appreciating our volunteers and not make them sign something like they were going into prison and agreeing not to carry drugs in. It needs to be more open and welcoming. And that's what I think.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go to one more question, and then we'll go to our closing remarks. This order for our fifth question is going to be Mark, Matt, Danielle, Joe, and Beth. And this question is, and please, if you need me to repeat it, let me know. What changes, if any, do you feel need to be made to ensure equal representation for all FHANA members, including those geographic areas with fewer FHANA members and less access to FHANA inspections and events? Anybody need me to repeat it?
Please go ahead, repeat it.
What changes, if any, do you feel need to be made to ensure equal representation for all FHANA members, including those geographic areas with fewer FHANA members and less access to FHANA inspections and events? Mark, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Jason. So I've actually been a little bit involved in some of the efforts to increase the levels of activities for the Frisian horse in some of the geographical areas that are less populated with Frisians, that being in the southeastern United States. In discussions I've had with the inspection committee and with Jason and with other members of the organization, we're trying to encourage and promoting the inspection down in that area, finding people that will be site hosts, understanding that we still might have a little bit of a loss in the earlier beginnings of having the inspection there, because we know that we have certain goals for attendance to so-called break even. I'm sorry, somebody say something?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Promoting events in those areas is critical. I shouldn't say critical, but important to the ability to promote the Frisian horse and to encourage membership of those types of within those geographic areas, and to reach out to the members that are there and communicate with them and ask their support in promoting and supporting events that are in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Mark. I had a quick interruption, so I thought I was on mute. Next, we'll move on to Mathew.
This is a great question. It's been answered in multiple different ways. I think the immediate changes that need to be made is nobody's mentioned, we haven't heard about creating a culture. I think right now we have a toxic culture within the Fauna organization, and this comes from the top down. I think there's some confusion as to what can be done. I think members are upset because we haven't had inspections for 2 years. I think if you listen, if you're curious about this, listen to the recordings, read the board meeting minutes. A lot of time is spent in the weeds on personality conflicts. There's several bad actors that come up time and time again that are creating trouble within the organization. I think that has to be rooted out. It's a systemic problem, and I think it has to be cut out. We need to move forward as an organization that protects and promotes the Frisian horse. So I think those are the immediate changes. We need to create a welcoming culture, an inclusive culture, a culture that doesn't care where you come from or where you got your money or how much or how little money you have, or if you want to buy 4 approved stallions or 10 approved stallions. We don't care. We want you to be part of the family, and we need to create a culture of that. And it doesn't feel that way right now. I can tell you that there are times that Fauna feels like a popularity contest. And I've heard this from new members. I've heard it from long-term members. I've heard it from people that are no longer members. So the leadership always starts at the top. A culture will always trickle down. I think that there's been strides made within this organization, but I feel that a lot of changes that have tried to be implemented have been undermined by this board. I know Roseanne has done a fantastic job as president, and I think that this board needs to come together and put everything aside and lead this organization into the coming changes, because there's things coming that are going to affect Fauna for generations to come, and we've got to get in front of these. The only way we're going to do it is if we become a family and we unite as fellow breeders and fellow lovers of this amazing horse. The thing that always keeps coming back to me is if we're doing something, we need to remember, what does it have to do with the Frisian horse? And that should be at the forefront of everything what does this have to do with the Frisian? Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Danielle?
This question actually goes with part of my initiative. Something that I feel that, Fauna can be doing, especially with technology being increased by everybody across the world during COVID, is to find a way to work with the Kfbs to find a way to, due to travel restrictions or geographical areas, find a way to do, an inspection that anybody can participate in, either virtually or, through video, like we just did with the mares for entering the stud book. Find a way to incorporate technology to, really help serve those communities that either don't have access to an inspection or, only have them bi-yearly because they just don't have enough people. With the increase of technology everywhere, we have to find a way to use it to incorporate other people that don't have access to, the big places like here in New England, we have tons of states to choose from. That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle. Joe, you would be next.
Thank you, Jason. For this question, I would also like to include language or Spanish and French-speaking constituents in the Amish community, given there can be significant barriers to access of information and to events because of that. And Fauna could benefit from adding a cultural liaison or similar role to partner with the communities that don't have access or don't use online options. And for those who do not speak English, and this could be more of a cultural based position, whether a volunteer or whatever. We need to do something about that. Consider recruiting interpreters. I'm a mentor that calls. I had Spanish people I had to talk to, and I actually called one of the prior members I spoke to, and he worked with me, and we worked with this other individual. It worked great, but it'd be nice to formalize that. Through the FMC, ask our chapter reps to reach out to special populations to actively recruit them to join. This is a vehicle for these folks to express their concerns and needs through the FMC up to Fauna. So it really gives them a voice in the organization and again, an opportunity to attend chapter events. Ask our Fauna outreach mentors to ask new members about, during their calls, how can we best support you? Networking, mentors, training opportunities in their underserved regions. Let's see what they have to say. Collect that information, give it to membership, and sponsor and event committees for discussion. Consider growing the mentor outreach program, expand its purpose to include outreach to underserved populations. Publish a listing of available subject matter experts on the website who would be willing to take calls on specific areas of interest, on sport, breeding, and the like.
3
And
seconds.
lastly, more meet and greet gatherings. I was so happy to hear from Jason that they're going to have a level 1 course at Michiana for the Amish. I think that's outstanding. And I also would like to give a shout out to Tiffany Vanderkoy at Black Pearl Frisians for hosting Frisian Fun Days and pulling in almost 150 Amish individuals to acquaint them to the breed. So anytime we have an opportunity to target these special populations, underserved Amish, what have you, let's commit and invest in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Beth.
Jason, would you please read me the question again?
Yeah,
Gotten
no problem.
far afield.
What changes, if any, do you feel need to be made to ensure equal representation for all Fauna members, including those geographic areas with fewer Fauna members and less access to Fauna inspections and events?
I think just having a baseline of knowledge as to what those areas are and going from there. It's like Joe said, you've got to reach out to the people that aren't being served and ask them what they need. We can't be everything to everybody. We're a very small organization with a limited budget. So we're not going to be out hiring a bunch of people to speak 14 different languages, but there are ways to get around that. I know the Fenway Foundation pays a vet to answer questions for people. We could pay Spanish speakers to talk to people on the phone and get their stuff involved. There's a lot of ways that you can do that without spending a great deal of money. So and the other thing is looking at where the inspections are held every year, and possibly, I know it's hard, and I've been involved with enough inspections to know that you can't just say, well, we're going to have it at a different place every year, because you can't do that. There's too many people that are involved and invested in going to currings and doing things with currings that you can't be moving them around all the time. There has to be some continuation from one year to the next. But that doesn't mean we can't add sites or make fewer horses a requirement. There are some curring sites that have been doing currings for the last 10 years and haven't had 8 horses. So it's not like we don't do it. We'd rather not, but those sites are around. So we just have to be more aware of where the need is and how to look after it. That's my answer.
Jason, you're muted.
I was talking away. I was on a roll. That takes care of our question and answer session. We're going to move into our closing remarks, and each candidate will have 2 minutes for their closing remarks. And the order of go for the closing remarks is Beth, Matthew, Danielle, Joe, and Mark. And Beth, I'm going to start with you with your closing remarks.
Okay, what sets me apart as a candidate for the Fauna Board? Experience. I would like to see Fauna evolve in the future to be more responsive to member needs, more inclusive, and more transparent. We have to involve people. You can't sit in a boardroom and have secrets and not expect people to talk about it. It's going to happen. So you might as well just get there from the beginning and make everything more open. And I'm not sure that having board meetings posted on the website is necessarily a great idea, but it certainly does open your eyes to a lot of stuff. We need to be revamping our currings and our stallion testing and our offspring testing so that those are viable functions again. Those are something that came into being when I was on the board, and they have been run right into the ground. And I don't understand it. We're the only country in the world that has the ability to collect and test and have stallions approved other than the Netherlands. We're the only ones, and we've let it just go to hell in the last 4 years. So it needs to be fixed. And that's what I would like to see happen most, is get back on track with the lost time that we've had in the last few years and get things going again. There are volunteers in a lot of the areas. Lone Star Frisian Horse Club in Texas has 150 members, and a lot of them are Spanish, and they have even more that would like to be members, and they're not really close enough. So they're working with a group of Mexicans to get them their own chapter. So people are doing things. If we don't do it, someone else will. So that's what needs to happen.
Thank you, Beth. Matthew?
So I'm running for the board a year early because my time was cut short and the members' vote was taken away from them. I had legal precedence to pursue this in a legal matter to be reinstated on the board, but I didn't want to waste the membership's money. So I'm going to let the membership say a referendum on me being removed from the board. Ensuring your horses were inspected this year is what this board should have been focused on, but they were more focused on undermining Roseanne Palermo, our president, and trying to have memberships revoked, people suspended and terminated on their memberships. I can assure you that if I was on the board during this time of this decision, the KFPS would have come over here. If you don't realize, we give the KFPS hundreds of thousands of dollars. We are their largest partner, yet somehow the judges were able to go to the UK and Italy. So how many small breeders that have young horses? For example, I have a five, well, she's 5 now, but I have a young mare that on our ranch that her career is set back 3 years because she hasn't been inspected in 2 years. So rather than worrying about personality conflicts and petty issues that this board has been focused on, we should have demanded that our partner, the KFPS, come here and inspect these horses. Now I know everyone's gonna say, well, we have February coming up, but who's worried about the February inspections? What this board needs right now is strong leadership that's gonna honor and protect our relationship with the KFPS, but also call them to account and hold them accountable to bring the judges here and inspect our horses. I've had friends call me and tell me that they're losing sales to people that are importing horses into Mexico and then bringing them into California and selling them for double the price. Why is that happening? Because the inspections are still taking place. The inspections are still taking place in Holland. They're still taking place in the UK and Italy and Germany. They just haven't taken place here. And instead of coming up with creative solutions, this board has sat on their heels. It will not be business as usual when this membership puts me back on the board. Yes, I've learned a lot. Yes, I will temper some of my comments, but I can assure you this membership needs somebody that's going to advocate for them and not advocate for a popularity contest. Thank you, everyone. I apologize again for being late. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I look forward to serving you yet again. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle.
What sets you apart as a candidate for the Fauna board? Well, I think we have some really, truly excellent here, and everybody has such passion for the breed. I am truly dedicated to the Frisian horse. Every day of my life has Frisians involved. I work hard for everything that I do, and I like to involve everybody around me. I believe a team is the best way to do things, and the Fauna board is a team. I would like to, make sure that continued transparency and communication is something that Fauna continues with and increases. And I look forward to hearing from members and helping them in any way that we truly can. Thank you for nominating me.
Thank you, Danielle. Joe, closing remarks, please.
Yes, what sets me apart as a candidate? I've got a wealth of experience working in organizations, 8 years as a chapter officer, 5 years serving on multiple committees and subcommittees, and functioning as an administrator on the FMC. And my willingness to work collaboratively with diverse people and diverse opinions and functioning within a team. And how would you like to see Fauna evolve in the future? Well, I'd like to see more effort and resources put on the Frisian horse rather than on conflicts and grievances, for Fauna to be known as civil, respectful, productive, to see more gratitude, public gratitude for the efforts of its volunteers, to see more diversity and inclusion, expand our outreach to special populations, and an increased focus in funding on Frisian health and wellness through research and education in line with Fauna's goals and in line with the Kfbs goals as well. Thank you for considering me for this important role, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Joe. And Mark.
So what sets me apart as a candidate for the Fauna board, that specific question? I'm not sure that anything sets me apart as a candidate. I volunteered to become a leader of the organization by being on the board. I was nominated for it. I've been on the board for the last 4 years. As far as sets me apart relative to that question, I would say that my experience in managing organizations, conflicts of interest with people, dealing with conflicts of interest with people, and the ability to understand and listen to what people have to say and talking to them through critical times, the ability to oversee groups of people, and like I said, understanding and being able to communicate with people, communicate. That's been said so many times throughout the discussions this evening. And I've known, as being on the board, that there have been multiple times that the communication, the things that have occurred within the organization needed to be communicated to the members, and it hasn't been. So I feel that is one of our weak points within the board, and I would like to see that improved. The follow-on question about how would I like to see Fauna evolve in the future? I think the organization, the committees that we currently have are doing absolutely wonderful work. Kudos to all of our leaders, our chair people of the committees. Excuse me. They have done incredible things. The inspection committee. I'd really like to see
30 seconds.
I'd really like to see the organization bond better with the Kfbs. And there have been multiple elements of communication that have not been formalized. There's a lot of communication that comes to Fauna from KFPS that's verbal. So thank you for everybody for tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to give this presentation and to be a part of this organization. So I wish you all a happy holidays.
Thank you, Mark. Well, in closing, I want to thank each of you, our candidates, for attending this town hall this evening. I want to thank the membership for participating and listening in. Again, this was recorded and will be posted on the YouTube station for Fauna within the next 24 to 48 hours. It will also go out with your email ballots. And we did also stream this live on our social media channels as well. The election will take place starting January 1st. If you have an email on file with Fauna, you will receive a special code and password to cast your vote via email. There are 3 positions up for election this year. The election will take place again from January 1st and conclude on January 31st, with the results being announced on February 4th. And the candidates or the newly elected board members would take their seats at the Fauna annual general meeting in Mashantucket, Connecticut. Hopefully I got that right, Danielle. That committee has been doing a wonderful job. And if you guys, anybody is listening and can participate and wants to attend that event, please do. They've got some terrific things planned. But again, I want to thank everybody for attending, and that will conclude our evening. So thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.